Video here. We ended up not stopping for lunch. Just hung out at Miller Lake for a little while. Check out these rocks behind me. Pretty cool. Anyway, so as I said before, left Yosemite. Have a lot of people now on the trail. We're kind of, and I touched on this in my blog, but we're kind of getting trail fatigue, you know, and life has kind of come crashing back in after 2 months for, majority of the people. Well, not majority, a lot. And check this out. There we go. And so they, people have things, bills come up. Family members get in trouble, death. That was that bird. You hear this bird? It sounds like he's saying cheeseburger. Hear that? Cheeseburger. That's what it sounds like. You can actually yell that at him and they'll respond. Oh. Hey, look at this. Pretty cool, huh? The dumb bird screaming cheeseburger at you the whole time. So those birds, I've only heard them maybe above about 8,000 feet or so. I've never heard them below that, so I don't know what kind of bird they are, but they're definitely a high altitude bird. There's some of the Sierra mountains and stuff. And so in Yosemite, we just zero there, but you don't really want to do any of the big hikes when you're doing a zero because you're trying to heal up. And also it's important because we were in lower elevations. We wanted to really take the time to let our bodies heal because you don't heal very well at higher elevations, so you can get like a cut and that thing will last for a long time at higher elevations, whereas in lower elevations it'll just heal right up. And then had a bus ride out of Yosemite, which was cool. The guy was talking about all the different stuff happening there, like the history of Yosemite, things like that the word Yosemite was not what the American Indians who lived there called it. They had their own name and their tribe was named after it. But it was these other Indians who were trying to warn a militia, the Mariposa Brigade, that the Indians that lived in the Yosemite Valley were fighters, and so it was Yohimini or something like that they called it, and what it meant was there are killers among them, and so Yosemite is a mistranslation and mispronunciation of there are killers among them. Of course, those guys thought that it was the name of the place, so famous miscommunication right there. Kind of funny, but there's some other peaks out there you kind of see. And this is the trail I'm on right here. So, pretty used to this kind of stuff at this point. I guess this is day 68. I'm on our way to Bridgeport. Got, 4 more days. I think we can do it in 3 if we push it. We're going to try to do over a 20-mile day today. We're thinking of just doing a 20, but there's apparently a nice camp spot about 1.5 miles past where we would be hitting our 20 points, so we're going to do that. What that does is that puts us into Bridgeport on the night of July 3rd, and So pretty cool. Also, and that's also quite notably the day that I decided to quit smoking 3 years ago. So if you don't know that story, what I was doing was I watched a movie. Oddly, it just sort of, that's how it kind of popped up, but I watched a movie and it was called Running the Sahara. And I used to be a cross-country runner and stuff in what's going on there? My face. But I used to be a cross-country runner and stuff in high school, and so I thought, oh, this, I'd heard that this movie was pretty cool. It's just like crazy what they were doing. So I'm trying to walk here, not fall. But so I was at the beginning of the movie. There's like, they're doing the whole setup and they're showing each guy. He's at home with his family and he's doing all of his stuff, and some of the guys are running and they're dragging tires and whatever. But there's this one dude, and I thought it was interesting. And he goes, yeah, 2 years ago I was sitting in a bar chain smoking, and I just said to myself, this isn't working for me. And for whatever reason, that kind of struck me. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and I watched the whole movie, and I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was smoking when he said that in the movie, and kind of looked down at my cigarette and everything too. But later, I decided, I was like, well, I've been doing this for a long time. It doesn't seem to be working, so let's try something new. And so the following day, I announced to everybody that Thursday, and this was a Sunday when it happened, and that the following Thursday night, exactly at midnight, to the Friday, I was going to put out my last cigarette and I was going to quit. And people were like, oh, blah, blah, good for you. And, but of course, they've all heard this from smokers before. And that's a pretty little forest we're going into here. Check this out. And so, when smokers say that, a lot of times people are sort of dismissive of them because, well, it's, smokers say that a lot. I had never said that. But anyway, so that Thursday, actually on the Tuesday, I think, I started reading the Alan Carr Easy Way to Quit Smoking book. And I was actually doing an audio book at work. So while I was just sitting there, and I was kind of getting myself psyched out, ready to go. And I was ready. I realized I was ready to quit. And so when it came down to it, I did put out my last cigarette, and I have an old, it's a smokeless ashtray that I had gotten. It's from like, I think it was my uncle's, belonged to one of my uncles who's dead now, my Uncle Dan. And I had put the cigarette in there, and there was a bunch of cigarette butts in there. And but I never touched them, and I actually cleaned it out right before this trip. So, here I am. I think this is working. Don't you?